How to discredit atheists. Hello, I'm Dr. Chester Wolf. I can confront any atheist in a debate, and I will thoroughly discredit them from the get-go. It'll be no contest. I will clean their clock big time. I'm not an expert on the Bible by any stretch of imagination. It's not because I'm that good, because I'm not, but because the facts that I have are that good. They are irrefutable and backed up with polygraphs. And so I urge you to sit back and listen with an open mind. But first, I need to give you a little background about me and why I have taken this firm and uncompromising position, and how I can back it up with absolute solid evidence that there is a God in heaven and a devil in hell, who's manipulating some of us like puppets. I had a woman named Mrs. Budek visit my home periodically over a 20 to 30 year period, dating back from when I was a youngster. I didn't realize that she was actually my guardian angel until very recently, when I heard Pope Benedict XVI refer to his guardian angel after he fractured his wrist. As a guardian angel, Mrs. Budek fit that mode perfectly. She actually guided and protected me, and may have actually saved my life in a couple instances. She cautioned me more than one time about a life-threatening marine accident. I was on a fishing trip one day, and sudden high winds almost submerged my boat, and I didn't know if I'd make it back to shore safely. In another instance, she said I'd be entering an alley on my bike with garages on both sides, creating a blind side. I was perhaps 15 years old at the time, and that if I wasn't careful, I'd be struck by a car. Only a few days later, it actually happened, and I could have been killed had I not listened to her. What she predicted just a few days before it actually happened defies all logic and common sense. It is supernatural. It's unbelievable. Yet it happened. I believe this had to be divine intervention from God. Here's a Google picture of the alley. My sister lived in that white house just two doors from the corner. My life could have actually ended right on that corner. That car had to have been going 25 miles an hour. Because of the unbelievable and supernatural nature of my story, I took and passed a polygraph test to prove that I speak the truth. Nobody can possibly fool a polygraph test. It has an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau, and it's used by the police, the CIA, and the FBI. My nephew has also experienced Mrs. Budek's accurate prediction, and so my nephew and I will both take any other polygraph test given by any other responsible party. And in addition to that, my ex-wife and 3 daughters may have to acknowledge some of Mrs. Budek's predictions, perhaps grudgingly or with chagrin, that they did indeed occur within their time frame. This makes 6 witnesses. Here's a copy of my polygraph test. On the left side, you'll see my photograph and fingerprint. And if you look between the arrows, you will see where it says, "Examinee has told the truth." I invite, and in fact, encourage any non-believing responsible party to take a polygraph test of me and my nephew, and we will happily take it to prove that we speak the truth. Reasonable people will have to agree that we are telling the truth, and what we have experienced is a miracle. Mrs. Budek made at least 23 different predictions going back anywhere from 45 to 75 years ago when she made them. Virtually every one of them came out exactly as she predicted. This is absolutely impossible from a secular point of view, yet it happened. She predicted that I was going to leave the school that I was sending to be an optometrist, but that a man in a white uniform would tell me to change schools and that I should listen to him, and that I'd become, in her words, very famous. It happened exactly as she said. I switched schools, became a chiropractor, and became nationally prominent within my profession after suing the American Medical Association for winning a major antitrust lawsuit for trying to eliminate chiropractic as a drugless and competitive profession. She predicted that my wife would leave me and all three of my daughters would turn against me for no valid reason. I remember hearing it from my mother and sister, but disregarded it as being impossible. After all, she read the Bible every morning for an hour, went to church every Sunday, was very religious. Well, it happened. If you ask my ex-wife why she left me, or why my daughters turned against me, they could not give you a rational answer. The only reason my wife gave was that I loved chiropractic more than her, which was a lie straight from hell. I love artists as much today as the day she left me over 7 years ago. My motivation for filing the antitrust lawsuit against the AMA was preventing the alarming and unnecessary suffering and deaths from abusive overutilization of drugs and surgery. Over 3,000 unnecessary deaths occur every week as a result of unnecessary medications, plus another 300 more deaths every week from unnecessary surgery. And that does not include the needless suffering and pain that goes with it. Meanwhile, chiropractic, which provides a very safe and effective drugless non-surgical treatment for musculoskeletal and stress-related ailments, was being attacked by the AMA with the attempt to eliminate it. Milliman and Robertson, the world's largest and highly respected actuary firm, says that 60% of the general surgeries in America are not necessary. What more proof does anyone need? I explained this to my wife, and that this had to be stopped, but the devil convinced artists otherwise. As for my oldest daughter, Kim, the only reason she gave when she turned against me was that I put hot water in my wife's restaurant coffee to cut the caffeine, which she called controlling. This was a loving and caring act, and I only added hot water with my wife's permission. You can ask Kim Wilk yourself. She's a firefighter in Denver, Colorado, and easy to reach. Her reasoning was totally irrational. It was influenced by the devil. There was no womanizing, physical, mental cruelty, no drugs or alcohol on my part, and I was more than generous to all of them, yet it happened. In fact, womanizers, drunks, dope addicts, deadbeat dads and husbands have gotten more respect than my family ever gave me. I believe this is why the good Lord chose the Wilk family, because my experience is so unique and outrageous that it serves to make my point that there is a devil influencing people. Because my family are good people. They're not at all evil. And so the good Lord allowed me to see these events in advance to convince me that this took divine intervention before these unfortunate events took place. My middle daughter, Kathy, turned against me because I expressed concern for her health, for wanting to become a beautician since she was allergic to hairspray. I would have given her the money, tuition money, for her beautician school, but she said in a vulgar way where she would not kiss me for the money and angrily stormed out of my home. Her conduct was influenced by the devil. Kathy was a 30-year-old woman at the time and certainly had no such entitlement. Meanwhile, my youngest daughter, Cindy, squandered her college money on unnecessary things, was defiant, belligerent, and bulimic, and she was consumed with hatred and disseminated her hatred to other members in our family. Nationally renowned minister Dr. John Phillips hit the nail right on the head when he said, and I quote, "Our enemies are not people. You must see beyond people. Satan may use people to persecute us, lie to us, cheat us, hurt us, or even kill us. But as long as we see people as enemies and wrestle with them, we will spend our strength in vain. And so my battle is not with my wife or daughters, but with the devil." My guardian angel said I'd write books. She predicted this well over 50 years ago. Writing books was the farthest thing from my mind when she said this. I have now written 7 books. My 2 latest books are The Devil's Intervention into Healthcare, Politics, Churches, Courts, and Family, and The Case for Christ and Against the Devil. I'll show them to you at the end of the video. Both books are available from Amazon in paperback and as ebooks on Kindle. This raises a question as to if Mrs. Budek got her message from the devil. But biblical experts say that only God can be 100% accurate, and Mrs. Budek was not only 100% accurate in every fine detail in at least 23 different situations, making it impossible without her getting divine guidance. She did not speak in generalities. My books are an attack on the devil as a liar, divider, and destroyer. And Christ even said that the devil could never attack himself and survive. And so there's no way the devil would support me or my books. Mrs. Budek's unique accuracy made me a firm believer that her source had to be from God. I was given the supernatural information for a reason, so I had a responsibility to get the message out. Dr. Peter Stoner, a professor of mathematics, calculated that fulfilling only 8 predictions with 100% accuracy was 1 chance in 10 to the 17th power. That's a 1 with 17 zeros after it. Dr. Stoner compared it to marking a coin, putting it into a pile of coins over 2 feet deep, covering the entire state of Texas, and finding that coin, that specially marked coin, on the very first try. Now that's for 8, but I have recorded at least 23 predictions with 100% accuracy, and so the pile of coins would have to be much deeper and the state much larger. And keep in mind that my nephew and I will each take any polygraph test given by any other responsible party that we speak the truth. And in fact, we invite it. I look forward to challenging any atheist to a debate. It'll be fun. The atheist will lose a debate before it even gets started. I'll even give you my questions in advance. I will ask them how they can possibly explain a person coming to my home and making at least 23 predictions, and have each prediction in itself being multifaceted, making each one virtually impossible to predict individually, let alone having 23 predictions fulfilled with 100% accuracy and never be wrong. Then I'll watch them wiggle and squirm and try to answer that question. This is a question for which there is no answer other than it took a higher power, which is God. I will follow up with a second question. Now, if you're a poker player who plays the odds, I'll ask them which will be more likely, life after death or finding that marked coin on the first try. Again, there's no logical answer other than life after death. Whether they refuse to answer my questions or not, they will lose the debate. Then I'll give them a third question regarding some historically well-established facts, which I have in my book, The Case for Christ and Against the Devil. And then it'll be 3 strikes and they're out. They will be thoroughly discredited. The mathematical evidence is too overwhelming and too compelling to dismiss what I experience as being a fluke or coincidental. There's a negative side to given for all this information in advance. That has made me into a fatalist, and it's not a good thing knowing the future. And there is a tendency to read into it, which can be extremely dangerous and much better if avoided. However, I did not ask for this gift, but it was given to me, and there had to be a good reason for it. And I believe it is my obligation to Christ to write about my books and to make these videos to prove that there is a devil in hell and that we are all in the midst of a major spiritual battle. My books and video can have a national impact, and I believe they will. I have made predictions about my family which I have shared with several people who I can trust, but I cannot give them to my wife and daughters at this time or make this information public for obvious reasons. It has to happen naturally, and there will be enough witnesses to support it after it happens. The bottom line here is that the good Lord has guided me to write these books and videos so I would open the eyes of the American people with evidence based on statistical odds which are impossible without divine intervention. It explains our president's wrongful and destructive behavior. It explains the wrongful behavior of my wife and daughters. If you ask them why they behaved so badly, or why they abandoned me the way they did, or why they hated me without a reason as they did, they cannot give you a logical or reasonable answer. They have been influenced by the devil. I was given this information so I would know in advance how different events would occur. It explains the wrongful and outrageous behavior of the black people who have it better in America than anywhere else in the world. They are given all kinds of preferential treatment, yet they are causing all kinds of disruption and racial strife. They are their own worst enemy, but they don't see it. And that includes our president. When they point one finger at someone else, they point three at themselves. From a secular point of view, their behavior is stupid, irresponsible, and unappreciative for all that's being done for them. However, from a Christian point of view, and as I see it, as a Christian, the troublemakers are influenced by the devil. They are victims. If a person like Al Sharpton was anybody else, he'd probably be in trouble for income tax evasion, but instead, he's invited to sit at the table with President Obama in the White House. The American people, regardless of color, listen to what I say here with an open mind, as opposed to an empty head. It will be to their advantage. If not, it will be to their loss. I've had people tell me that if I use the word devil in my video, that'll turn many people off and I will lose them. I'm well aware of that. But you better get used to it, folks, because that's what's happening. You see, the devil wants us to believe that he does not exist and that he is only a symbol of evil. And he has many of us programmed into believing that if we mention the D word, the devil, that we will become stigmatized as, well, you know, one of those goofy Christians. Well, let me remind you that Christ made it crystal clear that there is a devil. And so, would you consider Christ to be goofy? Christ either is or he isn't. You cannot have it both ways. He's either a lunatic, a liar, or Lord. So which is it? Don't fall for it. There is a devil, and he loves churches. This explains why South Park Church in Park Ridge, Illinois, why its minister, Reverend Eric Flood, complimented my wife for leaving me and continues to refuse to suggest she get marriage counseling in spite of my urging to correct his mistake. I gave him my books so he cannot claim ignorance of my family situation. He's well informed. Arth and our daughters were influenced by the devil and need serious help and didn't get it. Reverend Flood's secretary told me on the phone, "Don't send me any emails, Dr. Welk, because I won't open it." Reverend Flood's chief assistant disgracefully told me in church, "Move on, get another wife." I ask you now, what is so terribly wrong with trying to salvage or save a marriage of 44 years? The devil is firmly in control at South Park Church. Churches are supposed to unite, not divide families. All of the members at South Park Church are in serious jeopardy if they get counseled by Reverend Flood. Meanwhile, the North Shore Presbyterian Church in Encinitas, California, where my ex-wife is attending now, has not answered my phone calls and letters. I express a strong criticism of both South Park Church and the North Shore Presbyterian Church to the other churches in their respective towns, and not one church has responded to my letters. This is both disgraceful and inexcusable of these churches to force me to go to this extreme to get them to act responsible and be willing to sit down and talk. The problem is very serious and pandemic and needs to be corrected. If they want respect, they have to conduct themselves respectfully. And so much for the churches. Now let's move on. There's another area in which we have abusive and self-destructive overutilization of prescription medication in America, killing ourselves at the rate of 3,000 people every week from unnecessary medication. These are not street drugs, and furthermore, killing another 300 every week from unnecessary surgery. I equate these needless deaths to being a modern-day medical surgical holocaust. These tragic statistics are published in medical journals. I'm not making them up. Our healthcare system is killing people by the thousands every week. And where's public outcry? That's the devil's influence into healthcare using greed and avarice. If we lost one unnecessary life every week from our airlines because of carelessness, everyone would hear about it. But when we lose over 3,000 times more than that one number from unnecessary medications and surgery, it goes unnoticed. It also explains why intelligent people believe in the silly evolution theory when our scientists prove that mutations may delete but never add information to the generic code of the DNA, making evolution to a higher level totally impossible. Perhaps to a lower level, but never to a higher level. Furthermore, common sense or simple logic tells us that with evolution, there would have to be many transitional fossils found between man and ape. But science can't find these fossils anywhere. The existing fossils are either man or ape. No fossils in between. So how can we have evolution without transitional fossils? It's impossible. And so in closing, if you haven't seen my 3 other videos, we have President Obama is trying to destroy America, and how Jewish lawyers are hurting America, and a 3rd video entitled, I Was Guided by My Guardian Angel. All 3 videos are on YouTube. I recommend the book, The Case for Christ and Against the Devil, as it provides the well-documented historical facts necessary to suggest your case against any atheist. Both books are available in paperback from Amazon and on Kindle. Thank you for watching, and God bless America. And here are my books.